Today we're going to walk through installing the new window runs for the rear passenger sliding window assemblies. These window run kits can be purchased on the link below in the eBay store. This restored set here is utilizing them, and everything operates as factory. It'll cure any kind of current latching issues you have with the front or rear window assembly. So yeah, we'll get started on that. One of the main areas that you commonly see on 4Runners is the window trim, the window run coming out from the glass and sagging in this corner here. And then furthermore, not as much, but you see the window run pulling from inside these corners as well.
Oh yeah, I see.
So how Toyota designed this part is one continuous piece of rubber. So when it shrinks like a rubber band. So this, I guess, revised design eliminates that for the future. But we'll get into that later. So yeah, so typically how this kind of usually affects the functionality of the windows is typically you don't ever have an issue with the front window. Normally what happens is the rear window is opened. There is a latch mechanism inside. If you own the 4Runner, you would know this. If this is opened, say you open it to remove it from the truck and leave it sitting for some time, this rubber will just continue to shrink because it does not have the pressure of the glass holding the rubber in the channel. So it'll shrink, and then a lot of times you lose the ability to slide this back far enough to re-latch. So this particular window, it's working fine, but we do have some shrinking issues. If this glass was left open any more than a couple days, you probably wouldn't be able to close it again. So that's where that's where you have reduced functionality as far as the old weather strip. In my case, I was restoring a first generation 4Runner. I removed my window assembly with the L trim to remove rust, to have the assemblies stripped down and repowder coated. And when it came time to reassembly, days, a week later, the window run had shrunk and I physically could not get it back into the window frame. It was just too small. So I had to figure something out, and that's where the development of this window rubber came from. So yeah, so we'll get started.
All right, so yeah, so Chris, you said the first thing that we're going to do is remove this trim on the inside, and it has different pieces in the corners. We want to start on the front lower corner.
Yeah, just start at one of the corners, just remove the trim. It'll more than likely all just kind of more or less start just falling out. The corners are separate pieces. So yeah, you see there?
Yeah, they're like a plastic.
Mm-hmm. And then the rest of these are just individual pieces, and it just, yeah, comes out. Easy as that.
Okay. And then what's the next step after that?
So after you get that out, you're ready to start breaking the bond between the fiberglass shell and the window frame assembly.
Right, so the white part is the fiberglass shell.
Yep.
That is going to remain as just like the top.
Right.
And we're pulling out the metal tray that is this whole window section.
Yes.
And that's this black piece right here. So
when you pull this trim off, you will see the gap, you'll be able to distinguish between what's metal and what's part of the fiberglass frame. So yeah. So what we'll do in our current shop conditions, it's a little on the cooler side. It's held in by butyl rubber, so it doesn't ever harden. So it's gummy. If you've worked around automotive applications in the past, you've probably run into this before. But yeah, like I said, in our shop conditions, it's currently along the cool side. This is not as pliable in cool weather. So we have a heat gun. We're going to use a heat gun to um, help us out a little bit on that aspect. Um, so what we'll do, what's advised in the factory service manual is putty knives. So what we've done is we've just gone to the hardware store, gotten a variety of putty knives. You can get these in looks like flexible and more rigid versions. We have a couple 1.5 inch, and we have a 3 inch. Just just to kind of whatever's available to you. Obviously a wider knife is going to help it go a little faster. But yeah, so and I guess it does help a little bit to use maybe a chisel sharpener. You can get these at Harbor Freight and sharpen a little edge on it.
And so you're just jamming it in that that to separate this black and this white piece, and we're just doing that all the way around.
Yep, we're just trying to cut. We're just trying to cut through it. So just kind of stick it in and work it down, and you'll feel when it stops when you get down to the fiberglass, and then just kind of stab down all the way around. And what we'll do is we'll heat up a small portion of it, for 20, 30 seconds or so, and then work in that section, and then move on to the next section.
And then so once we've gone all the way around, it's so gummy, we'll still just kind of have to
we'll
pry
still
it
have
off
to
and
work correct.
Just be gentle and
yeah, we'll still have to kind of muscle it out. It's not super delicate like most glass when you're removing the typical automotive glass, just because it has this metal frame and this glass is floating in a rubber channel. So you're not really at risk to breaking glass or anything to an extent. You don't want to bend the metal frame, but it's more forgiving than working with glass bonded in.
Yeah, but you want something thin here, and we definitely want to take the time to work through the glue. We don't want to use like a fat screwdrivers and pry bars and just try and rip this out.
Yeah,
from
you don't
want
to muscle it. Yeah. I mean,
because you'll bend the whole frame or this lip that everything slides into and mates. So
you're making more work for yourself. So just take your time. Okay, so what we're doing, we're just heating up the top right now. So what we've done is we have used our putty knife while going around the entire perimeter, starting from the front all the way down along the bottom and to the back as much as we could have gotten to. So now we're to the point where we've gotten a lot of this taken off now, or worked through now, and our glass is pretty loose. So what we're doing is we've left the top. I'm heating it up, and you can just kind of work it out and use that as a hinge. There's not really much to worry about up top that you can damage. There's no really trim or anything that you're going to bend. But I do recommend heating it up just to help, so you're not forcing things as much, because this rubber, after you've gone this far, you can see it can get a quite good hold. So, and the colder it is, the firmer it is.
Yeah, it seemed really notable that the heat gun played a really big part in loosening this material. This what is this rubber called again?
Butyl.
Butyl. So yeah, this gooey stuff that we're prying through and trying to get the whole window frame off of, that butyl. Having a heat gun, we are in colder temps right now, but also we are in a shop. Some of you guys may be in way colder scenarios. Maybe it's just not that super hot where you are. Either way, if you have a heating gun, I think that was worth breaking out and warming it up, just to make things or life easier on you.
So I think we're ready to.
Yeah, so the bottom and the sides are loose, and we can kind of hinge the whole thing on the top. But Chris wanted to make sure we warmed up that butyl on the top since we didn't stab through it. So he's just warmed up this whole top strip so we don't bend the top of the frame. It'd be unfortunate for you to have cleared and done the 3 other sides properly and then bend the top of the frame, removing the upper section. So yeah, this is Definitely a lot easier with 2 people.
Yeah,
huh?
yes. And you can see where if you pull down this way,
Yeah.
yep, just like that. Yep.
Okay, so from the outside here, I'm not trying to swivel the window out from the bottom. Now, as he's prying that inner edge, I'm just pulling straight down with the whole frame.
Okay. You should be getting there. You can, yep. Yep.
Yep, here we go.
Yep. And there it goes.
Ooh. Yeah, it's pretty nasty in there, like you said. And you can see this is that butyl, the rubber that we've been chopping through and warming up to separate from the actual fiberglass topper.
So I know typically a lot of you may have had shown rust coming through on this L trim, this sheet metal trim. A lot of times leaves, dirt, debris gets packed up behind this and sits in here on this little shelf. So you can see, you know, all this stuff that gets, you know, just sits back here and piles up. And what Toyota has done is they use this rubber here that seals up between the L trim and the top. So anything that gets, you know, that falls through this trim through the drain holes in the bottom piles up and it doesn't have anywhere to go. And when I typically restore these, I remove this rubber trim and leave it out just to allow the leaves and debris a space to get through.
Do you take this top one off as well? This piece that goes around the top?
That I keep it on.
Okay.
It
Just to try and prevent stuff from going in,
Correct.
but anything that does get in there, you want it to be washed out.
Yes, and
allow it to escape through the bottom.
correct. And I do have an adhesive that I'll cover later that allows you to bond that back to the frame.
Okay, but you do want to make sure if you're restoring this metal frame to keep this trim piece.
Yes. Yep. Yep. And we will show that in the bench. But yeah, so a lot of you may be removing, you know, their window assembly to get to this L trim, to have the L trim rust taken care of, because the only way to get this L trim off is to remove this window assembly. You can see there are 7 screws on the back side here that get to that hold this trim to the window frame.
So this outside trim that like borders it is,
Yes.
they're just these Phillips screws.
Yep, and that's it. So yeah, so we'll get this to the bench and be able to start taking it apart and going into it further.
Now that we've got the frame out, we rinsed it off, got all of the just kind of residual debris off of it, just a quick rinse, brought it inside, and Chris was mentioning that this tray that are actual, what you call this, like weather stripping?
The window channel, the window frame channel.
Yeah, the window frame channel. It has drain holes in it to allow debris to rinse out, and they get clogged, and this whole area fills up, and I guess it's prone to rusting. And
Correct. That's what causes a lot of the rust issues in these. That a lot of time lies under the rubber. So when you disassemble the window assembly, you know, a lot of times you'll see more issues that were hidden. But yes, there are several drain holes. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 drain holes that are accounted for in the rubber. So basically, when you have the outside of your glass, when water rolls down the glass, it goes into this rubber window run, and it has to go somewhere. So that's what the drain holes are accounted for. So these holes here, so rainwater along with leaves, gunk, dirt, build up over time, and can clog those up. So there are some measures that you can take to help prevent this in the future. A few suggestions that I may add. So from the factory, there are these little plastic flaps that would, that I don't know why Toyota put them here, but they do help hold a lot of this gunk in. So for one, we're going to remove those and just leave them. So let's see, I'll start by pulling those off. We will not be replacing those. This allows the, whatever debris to just pass through without being held by these plastic stoppers. Yeah. And then another is, a lot of the time, this trim is bonded to the this rubber stopper, or this rubber trim is typically attached to the L trim. So the sheet metal trim that is in the shape of an L along the front and bottom of the window assembly. This seals, kind of closes the gap between the bottom of the L trim and the fiberglass top. So if debris does make it past those holes, those drain holes in the bottom of the window frame, this stops it there. And then that's what causes further corrosion to the L trim. So what I like to do is just remove it. It doesn't look any worse in the end result. We'll get to that later, but it's just one less thing to hold all this, hold all this debris in. So we'll remove that.
Is the top piece here connected? I see you're kind of struggling with
it. It is. When we unscrew it, it'll come off.
Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's sandwiched between the actual window frame and this this L, like, exterior border that what did you keep calling
L
it?
trim.
The L trim.
That's what it's commonly referred to as. So the L trim is held on with 7 screws, 7 Phillips head screws. So we'll start by removing that. I'm going to use the bigger one.
Just to break them loose.
Yeah. So yeah, these are just coarse thread, Phillips head, typical trim screw. Pop off. All right. So that has a rubber foam strip in it. All right. Okay. So with the with the L trim, yeah, the only components really to it is this this rubber strip that goes along, along the lower edge, front and top.
So that's the piece you're saying you like to remove.
Yep.
Remove that piece because that allows all of the stuff from in the channel to actually drain out.
Yep, and come down and just fall out. Let all that stuff, let it go through. And then it does have a little, now this is pretty hard, but this foam trim here.
Yeah. I see you got a little lifted here.
Yeah. Which that, no big deal. You can replace that with with hardware.
Well, and that'll just probably prevent it from kind of slapping around.
It just keeps it from rubbing on the front.
Okay, yeah,
here.
right here.
Yeah, you can see where all that has built up.
Yep.
So, yeah, it just kind of prevents it from rubbing through on that. Okay. So now a few more components to the windshield to look out for. These here, there are a few of these little rubber blocks. You'll want to make note of where these are located. You have one here, and then 2 along the bottom. You have one here and one here. Sometimes these are just glued on. Sometimes they fall out when you remove the window assembly. Sometimes they stay put like this. The reason they are here for is to help center the glass when reinstalling. So if they fall out, if you want to pull them off, before finishing this, this is where they go back before you put the window back in. They're just wedges to help center the window. And I think, yeah, that's all. It's those three.
So two on the bottom and one on the front.
Yep. And then aside from that, you have another piece of rubber. This rubber that is bonded to the window frame, a lot of times it comes off. That is something that we will be reapplying. This basically goes between the fiberglass body and the window to keep debris from entering from the top. This, we are going to reuse this. So
be gentle with this when you do remove it if you're refinishing your
correct.
frame.
Yeah, if you're, you don't have to keep it. I like to keep it just to keep stuff from entering in, you know, keep debris out. But yeah, most of you, this will be probably hanging off in the same fashion.
Yeah, it's only about 5 inches over here that are attached.
Yeah, so we can go on ahead and just
it.
peel it. Yeah, not much is holding it on.
Yep.
So, okay, so we'll just hang on to that for later. Okay, so now we're to the final steps of disassembly. We're going to work on removing the glass. There is a center divider here that works as a wipe or squeegee on the glass as it slides. It has a Phillips head screw coming in from the top and then one coming in from the bottom. So we'll start by removing those. And
Got it.
that's one screw.
Oh, I'm going to turn around so that lifts.
Okay.
They can kind of see a little better.
Okay. All right. Now that those are free, this frame can spread and bow like this. So what we have to do is we'll open both windows to kind of a happy medium point. You want enough room to be able to put a foot here and a foot here, and you'll be pulling up on the frame. Well, it's upside down, right? So we'll be flipping it back around.
Wouldn't this be better upside down if you put a foot and a foot
Yeah.
there?
Okay. Yeah.
Because then it's longer here, so when you pick up.
Good. Okay. So we're gonna roll this towel up and put it on the ground and get this on the ground to get this separated and get the glass out. Okay. So again, this is the way the factory service manual from Toyota states to do this. So you'll secure it along the bottom on something soft to keep it from messing up the frame, and you'll want to lift up on the other side to bow it apart. And you can see how it slides apart. All right, go a little more. All right. And so the outside facing glass comes out through the outside. And then the rear sliding glass will come out through the inside. This is okay, easy as that. So now that we have the glass out of the frame and the center support here, on each of these ends there's a little plastic guide. Toyota calls it a sash. You'll have to be careful when removing this. Sometimes they fall out when this is removed. Sometimes they get stuck in the rubber. In this case, they're kind of stuck in the rubber. So I'm gonna get a pick and remove one. Show you what I'm talking about.
I've got like a flat pick as well.
Should be good. Okay. So this little plastic piece, this is what Toyota describes as a window sash.
Yeah, like down and forward roll.
And these, sometimes they can be in pretty bad shape. Sometimes they may even break when you're removing them. Toyota does have a couple different part numbers for these across different makes and models. This particular one for the 4Runner, if the parts department were to look it up for a 4Runner, it would show discontinued. However, these were other iterations of this part were used in 80 series, 60 series Land Cruisers, the Toyota vans. So there's several different part numbers that have slightly different variants of this part, but they do work. In our case, we're using a replacement from a 80 series Land Cruiser, and the part number Toyota is 62729-90K01. And they are slightly different, like I said, but they serve the same purpose, same dimensions, and they work. If anything, they're probably a revised design. So that's what we'll be replacing these with. Again, like I said, you don't have to replace this if it's in good shape. It does have little felt pads on it. But what this does is when it's sitting in the channel, it gives something for the glass to sit on. If you think about a piece of glass in a sealed rubber channel, it's not going to want to move in that rubber because it has rubber touching on all the sides. So what this does is at all times in the articulation of the glass, you have two edges of the glass being supported by this on the bottom and on the top. So it allows the glass to somewhat float within the rubber channel. So if you were to remove these and not include them back in,
The glass sags into the rubber.
well, you put this in and now all of a sudden it doesn't have that buffer. So that added thickness. So what you do is when you put the screws in, you squeeze the frame against the glass and it's not going to want to slide for obvious reasons, because now this is all of a sudden a 1/4 inch shorter than it would have been, and now the glass is snug between the top and the rubber bottom channel. So it's important to have these.
So
for
I see these
for
are
it to
like
function.
almost like a little foam kind of.
Right.
That's what they actually slide on. The
They
windows?
slide on the felt.
On the
On the
felt?
felt. Yeah, the foam is just there to help. You can see how this does not have foam.
Yeah, it's all gone now.
Right. Well,
Okay.
it never had it.
Oh, okay.
So that's a revised. That makes that a new part number now with Toyota.
Okay,
So,
okay.
so
Do you have to trim out these ends? I see that those
You
are.
do not. No,
Okay.
that's another revision.
Okay.
So
Just more support, I guess.
I guess so. Toyota decided that's the way they needed to be, so now that's how they are. But yeah, so it has foam. So when this is supported, you see how this has, it
Okay.
has flex
Yeah.
like that. So that pad is obviously there, that foam to support
Like a
that.
buffer.
Mhm.
Yeah, to
And-
bounce back a little.
Right. And that's probably why these break over time, crack, and come into two.
Okay.
So that's just one note. While you're disassembling this stuff, these things can fall out and get kicked under the workbench, and you'd never know.
So it's very important.
Right.
Do not lose them, and if you're going this far, it may be wise to try and source the other newer
Window sashes.
Yeah, window sash.
Yep.
But also, I tried to find these on like 2 different Toyota wholesale part websites, and you even sent me the part number, and
Right.
I ordered them, and the parts, the orders got canceled and returned, the money returned to me, and they said the item was unavailable.
Right.
And then you went into the local.
I walked into my local Toyota dealership, gave them a part number,
Yeah.
and I ordered 8 of them, enough for 2 full
Yeah.
window sets. So
Yeah, so that's notable too. So like,
Right.
just because you tried online, maybe you want to try your local store.
right, and like I said, any 80s, 90s Toyota with sliding windows, like the vans or the Land Cruisers, there are different part numbers of these across all those makes and models, and I'm pretty confident that any of them will work. In this case, I decided to test with a Land Cruiser, seeing as there's probably more Land Cruiser stuff available than any other model for Toyotas, just because of its popularity and production run. So yeah. Okay, so we have those both removed. Now we can just remove our rubber. So I'm just going to start here where it's already fallen out, and just kind of, I'm just going to be gentle with everything just to want to,
Yeah, and then that way we can lay it out and show.
yeah.
And so this is all one piece, right?
It is.
And it separates here at the bottom, or
No, it doesn't separate anywhere.
it splits around it?
Yeah. It's there's holes cut for it. As you
Okay.
can see, how this has like a pretty tight fit to it, and it's kind of gone a little plasticky.
What, meaning it's like nice and hard?
Yeah, it's very the rubber's becoming brittle. Okay. All right. Yum.
Yeah. There's all kinds of stuff and trash down in this channel.
Yes, and this is what typically causes all that
See a lot of
rust
rust
and,
down in that corner.
Mhm.
And this was a really clean one, you said.
Right,
So it's
this-
like just now starting in that corner.
yeah, the vehicle, this 4Runner in particular, is a pretty good case scenario.
Yeah.
So now what we're going to do is we're going to use some wire brushes, clean all this up the best we can. We're actually going to have this powder coated, chemically stripped, sandblasted, and powder coated at our local powder coating facility. So we'll get this cleaned up and get it ready, and then we'll be back with starting on installation after this is refinished.
Yeah. Just like magic, it'll be all new.
Okay, so after removing the original window run, the pieces along the outside are the replacement window run. So there's a few differences you may notice, which is one is the original is one piece, whereas the revised part is three pieces. What this does is allows for shrinkage. So the factory window run, if it's rubber, it shrinks, so it doesn't have anywhere to pull from, so it's just going to start collapsing in on itself, and that's where all these issues spawn. So with the new part, say, this front leg, if it shrinks, it just shrinks out of the corners, and it doesn't cause any failures to the glass latching or any of the failure modes of the factory part.
So having three pieces is just going to prevent all of those stretching and
Right.
contracting issues in the corners.
Yes, exactly. So if it all shrinks a little bit, it doesn't matter because there's breaks in the rubber to allow for contraction without it negatively impacting the functionality of the glass and latch. The first steps to installing this, we're going to start with the longest piece first. This longest piece is going to cover from this 90-degree corner all the way to this 45-ish degree corner. So I've spoken previously about bonding, rebonding rubber to this. For all the rubber bonding, we'll use this 3M product. It's black super weather strip and gasket adhesive. It's 3M number 08581. This is just a typical it's typically used in a lot of older cars where there is not provisions for gaskets to snug into a channel or anything like that.
Or clasp onto.
Yeah, for glue on weather stripping. So it bonds exceptionally well. We're going to be using this a few places throughout the reinstallation, but we will provide a link to this below.
What? So you said we're going to use this on only this upper piece, right?
Correct.
Up in this bend, and then also on this trim that you like to put back in to prevent.
Yep.
On the outside.
And the little wedges. So,
okay.
Yeah. So
All right.
we'll make sure we cover this whenever we get to those steps. So so this is the first place we'll utilize this. We apply this to right here inside this radius, just because it doesn't have aside from the locking of the mechanical lock of it, there's not really much support there, and going to show from the old rubber, it likes to sag here since there is no glass on this side of the channel to hold that up. So So yeah, you'll apply a little bit of this to the inside before you do the final installation of this. Now, with that said, I recommend a practice install, at least on your first one, because there is going to be certain features of this window stripping that you need to align with features on the frame, such as this center hole for the center dividing post. So we'll go over that with each piece of rubber, but really, I guess I only recommend utilizing this on the top piece. The bottom piece, not so much, just because you want as much uninterrupted travel underneath the weather stripping for moisture to escape. So with that being said,
But so, all right, so you're going to start on the top piece here. In the kit, there are 3 different length pieces, and we are using the longest piece.
correct.
It also has cuts in it for this bend right here.
Yes, as the factory piece does as well.
As well, okay. And then, like he said, there's a cutout for this center post. So it is directional. You have to make sure you put it on one way, not the other.
And it is side specific as well. So the pieces are marked. So the pieces with 1 dot are right sides, and the left side pieces have 2 dots marked on them on the back side at the ends. So you'll have 3 pieces with 1 dot, 3 pieces with 2 dots. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with having the frame upside down, and on one end, on the flat end of this long piece, you'll see a split in the rubber. That split is to go around the center rib inside the steel channel here. So you'll start with that. I like to feed it in, feed it in just shy of the end, get it started, and then you can push it in the window frame and let that slit cover the straddle the vertical center rib. So now that we got that first end started and pushed in there, you want to work it in, down the center, kind of run your finger along the between the 2 run channels, and at the same time kind of applying a little bit of forward pressure towards here, because if you push on it this way, you're going to be stretching the rubber out as you go along, and you want this rubber to sit in the channel as at a most natural state as possible. So
push it into itself. You don't want to
Correct.
continuously push away
Correct.
as you're pushing it into the channel, because you may think, oh, it's just going to stretch a little bit, I'll push it back when I get to the end. But when you get to the very end, there may be an excess of material and you have to pull it all out and start over, which is exactly why Chris said for your first install, or at least your first side, you should practice installing it like this without any adhesive in that corner.
Right.
That way, if you have to remove it, you're not making a mess, ripping the material. Just give yourself a practice run.
exactly.
This takes a lot of time.
Yeah. So I recommend working 4 or 5 inches at a time. What you will see is what you want to see is there is at the inside this frame on the sides, it has a little pinch in at the top where the rubber sits down into. So you want to make sure that these wings of the rubber are sitting just below that little lip. And as you insert this, you'll start to see that. You'll see what I'm talking about.
Right here on this outer lip. It's almost like you could get your fingernail over it. So.
Yeah. So the rubber effectively should be sitting on the sides lower than the metal.
Okay.
So just work it in little by little, and I like to just run your finger along a little bit, and push, and then do the same. And what this also allows for is, if in 10 years this starts shrinking, you have effectively put more rubber into the channel that gives it room to effectively shrink for the latter term. And another useful thing that helps with the inserting of this rubber, to get it down inside in the corners is like popsicle sticks. So we have included some of these in the packaging just to kind of help aid in installation if you're having difficulties of getting the rubber to fully seat down in the sides.
So Chris just got done installing this upper window run weather stripping piece, and he went ahead and pushed it in, did a practice pass, and we pulled it back out, put a little bit of this 3M, what is it, a silicone or?
No, it's just
Gasket
yeah.
adhesive.
Yeah.
So we put a couple dabs of that in here, reinstalled it. We've got it pushed in nice, and our corners look good here. We're nice and flat in that upper corner, right?
Yep.
And we'll move on to, we're going to do the lower section or the vertical section?
The next longest piece, the bottom. So that's going to span from this 90 back to where this terminated.
So different ends. You can't mix it up.
Yep. So one thing to note on the top piece, as you installed it, there is a opening, a hole, a square cut out that is supposed to align with the break of the rib. So when you there is a center rib that runs from all the way around this frame on the inside. There's a break in it, and that break in it should align with the break in the rubber. So there's a square hole, and that is for that window sash. So that window sash will eventually get put in there. So
and then on top of that will be the center support post.
Right. So now we're ready to move on with the next section. Again, you have this end that's split to straddle the center support bar that runs along the front portion of the frame. So we're going to start with that. I'm going to insert this. I think this one.
Let me turn your frame a little closer to you.
Okay. So kind of the most difficult part is getting it initially started, getting all that seated in the corner in there, and that's where the popsicle stick might be handy. But once you get it started, you just glide your fingers along the crotches of the window run themselves, and just keep pushing, and you'll
make
see
sure you
it.
push back inward. That way you're not stretching it all in one way.
Exactly. Run a little bit of it, and then push it. And you can see it move when you give it a little push. You can see it go back to its relaxed state. And then as you're moving, you'll see all the drain holes, those clogged drain holes that we were mentioning.
These are only in the lower section. This
Correct.
lower mid-size piece.
Yep. And you'll see where there's rubber. There's holes in the rubber to align with the cutouts for the drains. So those should start to align. Again, you get to the center support post hole, and there's a break in the window, the rib and the window run, the metal to correlate with that cut hole in the rubber as well.
Yeah, put another one of your window sashes there, and then get that post in.
Okay, now we have the bottom piece installed. We have the center hole aligned for the rib to go through, and then on the very end here, you can see where these pieces terminate together. And now we're going to move on to the third and final piece, the shortest piece, to the front. So I'm going to rotate this again. It's easier working with this stuff down.
Yeah, I guess since you're like pushing downward into it.
Yeah. So again, there's a hole allowed for this buckle, and that's it. So I like to start on the shortest end.
Closest to the buckle.
Right. And this piece does not have any slots because it just butts into the current rubber here. It doesn't go past inside the frame. So we're going to get the end started. And again, just shove it up against the top and the bottom piece that we previously put in, and you'll see where this hole aligns around the latch
window
mechanism.
latch buckle. Yep.
Yeah.
So once again, as he's pushing down and sliding his finger, he's also pushing back into the material so that he doesn't stretch and end up with an excess when he gets to the end.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And as this stuff, like as you use the windows and after it gets installed, it'll all kind of find its home anyway. It'll relax and 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 find its home.
Shuffle around a little bit.
Yeah. So all right. So now we're all installed with the rubber portion. So we're ready to place our pads, the window sashes in for the support post, and yeah, we can start installing glass. So the felt strip goes up.
Yeah, so the little bristly felt side goes on the window side.
Yep. And you'll see where the holes line up too. Okay, so now that we have all the rubber installed and the frame ready to go, along with the sashes, we can first start with installing the larger rear glass portion. This portion is we have
On
to
the back side, right?
Right. Yep. This glass sits in the inside channel, so the one that goes inboard of the vehicle. So we'll put this one in first. Yep.
Yeah, you
And
could see because the latch, the clasp
Correct.
there is further back than this one. That was my indication of that glass going on the back side.
Yep. So first we'll install this into there, and it's pretty much reverse of, uninstallation. So, all right. So I just need. So put feet along the most outer portions of the bottom, and then kind of pull up. And you can even kind of pull up and twist a little to favor towards, whichever side channel you're running in. Yeah. So I'll put the bottom in first. Okay. And I'm going to try and help him. All right.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So now turn it around. And at this point, since the window squeegee goes in between the two layers of glass, we're going ahead and insert this in here. So you want the sweeping side, the side with the squeegee on it, towards the back of the glass. So that, but you just want to make sure that the screw holes realign with the holes in the window frame, the holes for the center support.
Oh yeah.
You want to kind of get it close now because it's kind of hard to get to after the glass is installed.
Yep. Lined up on top and bottom.
All right.
Here.
So I'm going to start the bottom again. And, oh, wait. Got to get past the latch, so I'll have to come this way.
Okay, past that glass. So.
Yeah, so if you want to, slide the glass over. All right.
In?
Yep. We're in. So now we want to go ahead and grab the screws. So now we have the glass reinstalled, and it's ready to accept the this outer rubber molding as well as the locating guides, these little rubber wedges here. So when it comes to reinstalling this here, you can kind of see how
It just sits right on top, kind of hugs up against that edge.
Yeah, you can see how it's molded to this portion of the window frame. So again, using this 3M rubber adhesive, you'll just put a thin bead on this rubber strip and reinstall. it's pretty good about, it's pretty tacky just out of the tube. So you can apply this to the rubber, stick it on and let it sit.
You would apply it to the rubber, or just set it on, like apply it to the metal and then just set the rubber on it?
I typically apply it to the rubber just to kind of give you, it honestly doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Just worth asking.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, applying it, utilizing whatever directions they have for this as far as cure time and dry time. For the sake of the video, we're just going to forego this process at the moment. Like I said, it's not required to install in the vehicle. It's just kind of a nice to have, and it helps, you know, show a finished product on the top.
Yeah. So this was the one piece of trim that Chris said he likes to leave on to prevent that you know, just trash buildup in the top here. This will help everything kind of roll over the glass. And then the lower trim that's similar to this is the one that he said he prefers not to install.
Right.
Like you just mentioned, this will complete the this will give a more finished look, because the top side of the window is something that people will see as they walk up to the car, whereas the trim on the underside, one, you use eliminate that for you know, to allow excess trash and water to flow out the bottom, but then once again you won't see it either.
Correct.
So it's not going to have any kind of aesthetic effect.
Right. So yeah, you would bond this on, and then we would bond the, you know, the window guides, these little wedges, to, you know, where we took them off of the frame to begin with. So again, using this, pretty self-explanatory. They just, you know,
Stick right on.
Yep. And the skinny part of the wedge goes towards the inside of the frame, and the wider portion goes towards the outside.
Yep. Cool.
So yeah, so I think we're ready to reinstall the L trim and show you how to reinstall the window assembly onto the vehicle.
All right, guys, so he's gotten the L bracket, or the L trim, screwed back on. That's what, like 7 Phillips screws, I think, on the back. So we've gotten this cleaned up and screwed back on. We're going to carry the entire assembly back over to the top, and we are going to install some of the new butyl rope, which is that black gummy material that we originally had to use the putty knives to like scrape out to remove the whole frame. So this is just the replacement. This is what you're going to use when you reinstall your cleaned up, refurbished frame here. Also, you have to make sure, we didn't show that in this process, but we cleaned all of the butyl off of this frame. You also have to clean that off of the topper, right? So the actual fiberglass top, all of that mating surface, any of that black residue where Chris was rolling his finger just to like roll it up into a ball, you definitely have to clean that surface as well before you mate with the new butyl tape.
Correct.
Or what do you call this? Tape? Or?
Yeah, it's referred to as tape or rope. In this case, it's round. What we're using is 1/4 inch by 10 foot. This is a roll that I got. It takes two rolls of 10 foot. I think it takes just shy of 8 foot or so to install one window. So, like I said, this is 1/4 inch round. Toyota calls for a 8mm, I believe, which the closest we got here in the States is 1/4 inch. So yeah.
Yeah, so 8mm or 1/4 inch round. You need a 10-foot piece of rope for each window.
Correct.
Right? Cool.
Yep. Okay, so now that we have the butyl in and the window ready to reinstall, we're just gonna apply. And if you remember, those little rubber blocks, those were located along the bottom and along the front. So you want to kind of justify it towards the front and butt that rubber block up against the inside frame. It has a little spot in the fiberglass shell that it rides against to help center up this window. And then you just kind of press and push, and it's going to be very proud until that butyl collapses, like seats down fully. So what we are going to do to help with that are clamps. So now you're going to try and put the clamp between the fiberglass shell and down in the little metal channel where the trim, the interior trim sat. So went to the hardware store, picked up a bunch of these. These are about $1 a piece. They have a pretty strong clamping load. In my case, I did this in the summertime and put these kind of in, equal distance apart. So just kind of evenly clamp these around the whole window frame. You should be able to close your glass with
So
them
if this was parked outside, you could still close the
exactly.
glass?
So kind of how I did it was I left the clamps on, let the clamps on stay for about a week through the hot summer days with the vehicle sitting out in a parking lot with this blacktop. It gets pretty warm in there, and it'll help kind of allow that butyl to seat and kind of flatten out a little bit, just with the added pressure. If you're in a colder climate where you do not have those warm summer days, you can use the same method and sit with the heat gun as we use to release the butyl, the old butyl, and just kind of heat up around the edge, get it nice and warm, and then
Maybe if you had like access to a shop where you could park it inside
Right.
and do. I mean, I feel
Put a
like if you're
heater.
in the colder climate areas, you're probably not going to start this job out in your driveway while it's snowing anyway.
exactly
So.
right, yeah. But if you don't have those days where you get up into the 90s, then that's another way. So yeah, this is just basically put even pressure all around the glass while letting it bond back together. And yeah, after you're done with that, you remove the clamps and just replace the plastic trim that we pulled off in the very beginning. And even that connects over the fiberglass shell and the metal window frame. So that will also help over time, snug those together.
There, yeah.
Yeah, and along the top and back, you have direct access to the frame, so you can help it. You can push in, grab in with your palm and help work that. The only issue with the bottom is you have this L trim, and you don't want to damage that. And you have no real way of putting a lot of pressure in one spot without damaging it. So that kind of
So be gentle when
yeah.
you're pushing on it.
Right.
Yeah. Don't get crazy pushing it around.
Yep. So now that you have the sliding window assemblies in, one good thing to do is to condition the rubber, just like with old rubber. If you want to keep it looking nice and new and feeling nice and new, conditioning helps with that.
Because you always want rubber to have this is very soft.
Correct.
The stuff
yeah.
that we took off, the old original stuff is like really hard.
Yep.
Chris, you even referenced it as feeling plasticky.
Yes,
it's turning plastic, right?
It's losing its pliability. It's becoming brittle. So now with the new stuff, with the new rubber, the way it's designed is it has a polyurethane coating on the glass side to help the glass glide in the channel, and it has no coating on the back side. So the side that sits down in the window in the frame does not have a coating on it. So it's just raw grippy rubber.
Yeah.
So
but that way, when you slide the window, it doesn't want to bunch up
exactly,
and move.
yeah,
It
yeah.
stays, but then the window can slide through the top side of it.
Yeah, and like I said, the glass more or less slides on the sashes, on those lower the upper and lower sash. So you can take the glass and move it up and down in the channel. So it's supposed to have some wiggle, so it can slide. But yeah, so the conditioner to use on the inside of the rubber, I personally like to use a product called Gummy Fledge. It's GUMMI It's a really popular in the BMW community. It's a German product. It comes in an easy applicable bottle. If not, any kind of conditioner suitable for polyurethane and EPDM rubber.
So
would
what?
be
And this
fine to
is just
use.
something that you put on a rag and you just
Yep,
basically wipe down all the rubber.
Yeah,
and
the bottle has an applicator end on it, and you can
Okay.
just put it
run
right on
along
it.
the edges.
Yep. And then McGuire's has a, I think it's, I can't remember the numbers for it, but McGuire's has a really good rubber conditioner.
Yeah.
So you'll want to use that. Just kind of, this stuff sits out in the weather, gets a lot of sun. So, you know, using that between car washes, it's a good idea. So.
And you would do that after you let everything settle and you're confident that this is all sealed up, like just straight out of the gate.
Yeah.
Go
yeah.
ahead and put a coat on.
Yep.
Go ahead and condition that leather, just and make it a habit. Is
Right.
what you're saying.
Yeah. And I don't know about the other formulas, but I know the gummy fledge is water based, so it's not, you know, if you get it on your paint or anything, it doesn't, you know, doesn't hurt anything. But yeah, that'll just kind of help them, you know,
Stay soft and pliable
yeah.
and do its job.
Yep.
So cool. So this pretty much completes disassembling and I would say we went into some of the refurbishing of some of the components on here. Talked about some replacement components and obviously reinstallation or reassembly and reinstallation. But yeah, so this gets you your sealed up, nice and tight, sliding windows back, latches working again, and hopefully another 30 or longer, 30 plus years of use out of this top and this window again.
Yep.
Cool. I like it.
Yeah. Cool.